Sunset Conversations is a live stream project which brings in conversation international art-related people.
I'm live again for the 15th session of Sunset Conversations, and I'm waiting for Sivan again.
It worked.
Oh, it worked. Fantastic. Hi, Sivan.
I'm so bad with this. I'm so sorry that
No, fantastic. I mean, I was kind of when we first tried, it was saying like your device doesn't support live stream, but finally we managed. So perfect. I just want to give the introduction again because we missed the first round. So Sivan Karim is a super over-talented illustrator based in Berlin. And actually, he lived in Berlin for the entire life, I guess. Is that correct?
I moved here 7 years ago.
7 years ago, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm from Nuremberg, actually. I don't know if you've heard of Nuremberg, south of Germany, near Munich.
Nuremberg, yeah, sorry, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So, Sivan, thanks a lot for being my guest today. And
Thank you for inviting me. It's so nice to see you again. You know, it's almost a year ago.
Yeah, it's just a year. But we were in Dubai last year, and we had a really good time. So it was
awesome.
I still have your print in my studio, and I really
do.
You got mine?
Remember what I said to you when I first saw your artwork, that I had a dream that it reminded me of that, you know, because it was like water.
Wow. In fact, I was reading an interview, and dreams are one of your main sources of inspiration, together with nature and social issues. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I do have like totally weird dreams sometimes. Like exactly like one of the drawings I did was the girl who is smoking in the middle of a crowd, and everyone is white, and she's you know, black. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, for sure, she's at the center of the image.
That was my dream. Everyone on the street were basically white, and there was this specific girl I saw in my dream, and she was wearing this black hoodie or whatever that was, and she was smoking, and I totally loved that picture in my head, and I had to visualize.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's something that we have in common, because I really often have dreams about my works.
I know.
I find myself
amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
When I came back, you know, I was so proud after I came back from Dubai. I was like, oh, this is from him, and this is from her. You know, I showed all these kind of my friends.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, sorry, there was a bit of
No, it's perfect.
Okay, Sivan. So I want to ask you something about Berlin to start, because I was living in Berlin years ago. I did my my studies in Germany, actually in a city close to Berlin, Hannover. But we used to go to Berlin very often. So I wanted to ask you: is this black and white habit connected to the city you're living in at all?
Actually, I started this black and white thing even when I lived in London, because I used to live in London when I was 20 or 21, and it was around 2011, yeah. So I started that thing, you know, the art print I gave you, that drawing is actually from London. I started it there, and I finished it in Berlin.
Okay.
Yeah, it was never actually my intention to connect it with Berlin, but I realized when I moved to Berlin that everyone was wearing black, you know. So
yeah. It's definitely a black and white city.
But you're wearing black, so.
Exactly. Because I lived there as well. But I mean, Berlin has kind of. I remember. Maybe because I was depressed or something, but when I lived in Berlin, I kind of really could see a black and white world. Or maybe because of all these movies that we see that are in black and white, and they're based in Berlin after the war. Who knows? Who knows? Another thing that we didn't really discuss in Dubai, but I came to know by following your page and getting to know your work a bit deeper, is that you kind of pushing lots of social messages with your drawings.
Yeah, and issues that a lot of things are about pattern, that I just don't like that kind of thing, that people are basically forced to look a different way, a certain way, and are not able to be themselves. They have to look a certain way to be accepted. My message is mostly be yourself, and people will love you the way you are, because at some point you just notice if someone's fake. That's how I when I was younger, I was not happy about the way I was, so I basically tried to be someone else just to make friends or something like that. Once I turned 18, I just didn't care about that anymore. I just said the things I wanted to say, did the things I wanted to do, and I kind of cut myself from this pattern. And most of my drawings are about this kind of pattern or stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot of most of my drawings are a lot about issues, from society issues mostly.
Do you think that art helped you in this progression towards this kind of freedom of expression and perhaps expressing who you really are?
Yeah, definitely. I think art is a visual, opinion, and people can tell. My drawings seem very simple, but I think I try to make the composition as strong as possible, to use as less lines as possible, just to visualize the topic or the message behind it. And yeah, art is just very important to me.
Fantastic, Sivan. And another question, I mean, you already said something about it, which is your depiction of the feminine forms, which are full of seductive elements, and in a way you use this seductive forms not as a model would do, but it's more as a message of freedom of expression and freedom to really show the feminine side that is perhaps in each person in this world. And I wonder, how does femininity came into your work? Was it something that at one point you realized you just wanted to draw? I mean, I know you draw boys as well, but I'm just saying,
not as much as girls. Yeah, it's true. Well, when I started drawing, I always, all my drawings kind of looked more female than male, so that was more a habit. But at some point I realized that the female body or their poses kind of told a story. It was very sensitive but very powerful too, and I don't know why, but I just got used to that. It was, and then when I realized more about the unfairness about male and women, so that the genders, I realized that I had a voice and that I could support women through my art. And I really try to empower women to be very confident outside, and not, I don't know how to tell, but I think my images talk for themselves. I just love it. And it's not like that I'm a feminist, but if you call it that, then I'm a feminist, I guess. But I just like to see women in a strong position.
I totally agree. And I was wondering, you often use this kind of, you have a kind of natural proportion of the body and face, but then you play a lot with the hair. The hair becomes a tool for this real world to happen.
Yeah, that was also a dream, to be honest. Like that, the art print I gave you, it's called The Dream. And it was because of a dream, because in my dream, the girl was basically on the beach and her hair turned into the sea. And I loved that. I loved that much that I, draw it on the next day. I did like very tiny sketches, and the very first sketch was it, and I started the illustration.
Great. Okay, I mean, that was really nice to hear, like all these personal things. I now wanted to ask you something a bit more general, because I think, if I well remember, you're the first illustrator that I'm having on this show. And so I never could go through this kind of let's call it a debate, but you know, it's not a debate against me and you, it's a debate in art, I would say. Because illustrator, they not automatically tend to get represented by galleries or enter museums. It is considered an art more used for commercial purposes.
Right.
While I think nowadays, you know, it's really hard to find the boundaries, because when I look at illustrator work, I could easily call it a painting. I don't feel shy to call it a painting, you know, if it's represented in and intended to be a painting, despite its an illustrative kind of style to it. So I wonder, do you ever face this kind of trouble when you tried, or if you tried, to enter the museums or the galleries or the art market in general, which is not connected to advertising and branding, for instance?
Yeah, actually, when like 2 years ago, when I started promoting my art, I also wrote a lot of emails to galleries or museums for support or, you know, to exhibit, but actually none of them responded. So it's different. But when you write anything to magazines or agencies, they usually respond back. But yeah, museum is kind of hard for illustrators because they see it more as for a commercial way instead of, you know, contemporary art.
And what's your opinion about that? Do you think it's just okay, like that's just the way it is, or you think there's a misunderstanding of your creativity, perhaps?
Maybe it's also very old-fashioned, you know, the way they think. Maybe I just couldn't really explain, but I didn't try to, you know, bother thinking about it, because it's just, you know, it reminded me of my teacher when I was younger, and she said, you can't make a living out of art, so try not to make art. And that shocked me, actually, but I didn't listen to her. And that's the thing, you know, just because those people don't respond to my messages doesn't mean I should, you know, consider giving up art. And I still continue, and maybe it works at some point.
That's really good. That's really good. Sivan, you said something about your past, that you tried to act differently, especially before you turned 18.
Yes.
I don't want to go into it too much if you don't feel like, but because it's something that I think all of us has to go through, and perhaps I very often find people asking me questions about how, you know, I managed to feel comfortable with my work, with myself.
Yes.
And also, you know, I have the impression that people sometimes think, but when you have a few thousand followers, your life really changes. I always say, I mean, don't think we have a special life; it's just a normal life.
Yes.
But I was wondering whether you can share a little bit of this transition moment and why you didn't feel accepted the way you were.
Well, you know, when I was younger, I didn't think that much, you know, about myself. I didn't think that I matter enough to have an opinion or, you know, just to stand out from a crowd. But once I got older, I enjoyed having, you know, spending time with myself and thinking about life, thinking about my future, thinking about where I want to go. And once I realized that I have a goal, I have dreams, and I want to reach it by myself. And also I had a lot of toxic people in my life. So these things were, the issues in my head. So I cut all these people from my life and I focused on my career after I turned 18. That's why I moved to London, and after London to Berlin. So, to pursue these dreams. And I think it's a lot about, conversations with yourself. It sounds kind of weird, but if it makes sense, it's about spending time with yourself to be clear about what you want in your life and where you want to go. You don't necessarily need to know 100% because, a lot of things happen spontaneously in my life, but I just wanted to be happy, and I wanted to make decisions that I made myself, not other people for me. So that was the point where
no, I mean, I really got your point, and I guess the path towards happiness is something that we all kind of pursue at one point in life. Right. As soon as we realize, and the better it is, because I guess that's the main thing to survive happiness and joy.
Actually, yeah. A lot of young people go through that, I think. Maybe you've been through that too, because you're always insecure when you're younger and you go to school and not everyone has the same interests as you, because I was the only one who was doing art in my class back then. I was around 14, 15, and no one else was drawing. So I was kind of a weirdo, always drawing when we were doing math or anything. So yeah, but once I started studying and I met all these amazing artists, I felt accepted, and I felt like that, I was not a weirdo anymore. I was just someone who loved his passion, so.
No, definitely. I mean,
with it.
Yeah, no, I totally get your point, and I guess that that's why art should be in every person's life, because art is the way to escape
it's very
conventional behaviors. Yeah, it's the way to escape conventional behaviors, and definitely, I think it's one of the most important subjects, but very often forgotten.
Definitely. I mean, I don't even remember when I started art. I think ever since I can remember.
Yeah,
it's just very important to me. And I can't think about a life without art, and I think I will continue as long as possible, even when I'm very old. Can't even draw anymore, but I still do some lines.
You will, Sivan, and I'm sure you're going to surprise us with your wonderful ideas. I mean, it's nice to look at your work, because you never get bored of see the next stage of your dreams, and I could see your dreams in those drawings, and I have to say there's nothing that fascinates me more than dreams. Someone just wrote words of wisdom for that, and I agree. I think we're getting to an end today because we already got to the wisdom point. And when you get to the wisdom point, you really need to pause and think about it. Sivan, thank you very much for...
Thank you for inviting me. It was so good to see you again. I wish you all the best. I'm sure.
Thank you. Absolutely. I'm planning a few shows in Berlin very soon, so you'll be the first one to know. I can't announce yet, but I'm about to collaborate with the gallery in Berlin. So I'm really looking forward to see you and perhaps do another exchange of art. I need more of your pieces in my collection.
Yeah, I want yours as well.
Fantastic. Sivan, happiness. Yeah?
Good evening. And you guys too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.